webinar is now live. Let's see if people join.
What if no one joins?
Don't say that.
Oh my god.
You're just talking to yourself. I mean, it's still valuable material. Oh, someone joined.
Oh, yay, hello. Welcome to our first guest.
Oh, we got two. Okay. Okay. Hello, I'm Jazzie Pigott. And these are the composers for my Revolution project. So we're just going to go around and introduce ourselves, I guess, starting with Daijana, since you're unmuted.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So my name is Daijana. I'm a second-year master's student at Michigan State University studying composition. I'm originally from Kansas, so Michigan is quite far from home. But I'm happy to have someone like Jazzie here to have some sort of camaraderie with and a sense of home. So.
Okay, and let's do Keeghan next.
Hi, my name is Keeghan, and I just graduated from Ithaca College, studying music composition. I live in New Hampshire, and I am currently working as a composer, educator, and performer in my hometown area. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm Malachi Brown. I'm currently a music teacher with Norfolk Public Schools. I also graduated from Ithaca College about a year ago in December, studying music composition, and I'm glad Jazzie brought me on board for this project as well.
Okay, and I'm Jazzie. Again, I think most people know what I do, but I'm a second-year master's student in tuba performance at Michigan State. Currently, I'm living in Lansing, but I'm from Long Island originally. So we're going to start this panel off just sharing clips of the pieces for this album. Right now, we have to push back recording because we're in the middle of a pandemic, but I would like to allow you guys to have some sort of preview just to get it in your heads. So we're going to start with Malachi. His piece is called Jazzie's Tuba. And then do you want to say anything before I play it? Good.
There we go. I think I'll just address anything afterwards, and we can just play it before I say anything, just so we get some first impressions.
Okay, that will work. Feel free to leave some questions in the chat or the Q&A section of this panel if you have any to ask. We would really appreciate it. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. So mainly what I was thinking with this piece is let's see how well we can show off the tuba, but also like make sure it's not just solely tuba. I was thinking of like a group, like a singing group, kind of. So like we have a lead singer, which in this case would be the tuba, but we also have like a mean background singers and like a little bit of accompaniment, so that's my whole process, especially with going through this one when she asked us to write a piece that was like centered off of like our Afrocentric roots, also just like going into something like a song form, not just necessarily a piece. So like we had the freedom to choose whichever, like which side. And so I decided to go for the song-ish side. And I wanted to write something that would be like indicative of, I guess, my singing background. So I wanted to make sure I kind of wrote like a lead singer, but also like I have a good background singer section because I've always been in love with background singers. That's always been my thing. So I'm just like, yes. So I wanted to bring that into fruition with this piece while showing off the tuba and at least like getting a little bit of a better taste of what the tuba can do, not just being a pedal instrument, as Jazzie has mentioned before. Like, because typically in an orchestra, you just hear the tuba play pedal. And I've heard like years before that like the tuba can do so many things other than just play that. And I was like, okay, well, let's apply what I've learned there because now I actually have to write for one. So let's apply this. So one of my go-to instructions for tuba writing was the Ralph Vaughan Williams Tuba Concerto. And I was like, oh, wow, there are 16th notes here. And it's actually fast. So it brought a lot of attention to like the tuba's versatility, especially with dealing with higher notes. So I wanted to touch on that, but also like, since it would be my first time writing for a solo tuba, didn't want to like overstep my bounds. So I tried to go with the vocal background, the vocal approach to it. So yeah, so that's about the piece. Is there anything else you want me to talk about with it, Jazzie, or?
Yeah, so let's just talk about your background as a composer. When and why did you start composing?
Okay, yeah, it's actually funny. When I was about in 10th grade, it might have been ninth or 10th grade, around that time, like 14 or 15, I did a Christmas gig with my best friend's quartet. So I replaced the cellist because I didn't even know I was like the second choice cellist, but I was just like, I'll do it. And we did it, and there was this like funny, like, it was this like interesting arrangement of the first Noel that like I heard as soon as like we started playing it because I didn't get to go to rehearsal with them. So we just did it on the spot there. And it was a really, really nice arrangement of the first Noel in my favorite key too. So I was just like, oh my God, this touched me. And I feel like that's when I first started to like really hear music in my head. And I was like, oh, maybe I should write this down. So on the ride home, I went around and like, I went around just like humming a little arrangement of Hark the Herald. And I used my little finale notepad that same night and just wrote like a 3-minute arrangement of it. And then boom, we got started from there. So I definitely credit my 7th grade teacher for teaching me how to use finale notepad and then encouraging me to keep composing. So that was wonderful. And then I kept going with it. I grappled whether to go into composition for college or not. That was a tough decision because it was either you play cello or you do something else, or like you go into engineering or something. So I was just like, you know what, I'll try composition, see where it heads. If not, I'll go back into engineering or whatever. And here I am now. So composition did me well. I started my college journey at Old Dominion University in my hometown, where I am now, Norfolk, Virginia. And then I transferred to Ithaca College for my sophomore through senior year.
Okay, well, thank you, Malachi.
Thank you.
So we'll come back at the end, but let's move on to Daijana and her piece, which is called Breakdown, and it's for tuba, sax, and drum set. So I'm just going to share this audio real quick. Okay, good job.
Thank you.
About this piece and what happened, like why, not what happened, why you wrote it.
Yeah, so I think Jazzie, when we first kind of met, she had asked me to write a piece for her, and I was like, yes. And then sort of life got in the way. And then she won the Running Start sort of competition at her school, and she asked me again, and she approached me again. And I was just, it was right around like when the lockdown had happened and we were transitioning to remote learning. And over the course of lockdown, I guess, I had a lot of time to just think introspectively about myself and sort of like what makes me me. And one of those things I remember vividly is singing in the church choir and the youth choir. And there's always these moments, depending on what kind of song you're singing, where the sort of instrumental drops out and it's just the rhythm section, and which would be like drums and like bass guitar or something that sort of ushers in the voice. So that was like my main inspiration of everything. Everything just sounds kind of just like low key, and I think it really allows, later on in the piece, there's like a chance for improvisation for all the instrumentalists. And I think it really ushers in everybody to be able to explore their authentic selves during that. So that was my main inspiration for that. It's just like thinking about just something that occurs in music all the time and just isolating it and trying to make it my own and make it fit for the tuba and saxophone and drum set. So yeah.
Okay, great. And then same question that you had that I had for Malachi. Why did you start composing?
I don't like to talk about this too often because it makes me super emotional. But when I was a senior in high school, and a couple months before graduation, my dad had died suddenly. And so throughout the grieving process, I feel like it's really cliche to say, but it's just like people always say, oh, I couldn't stop hearing the music. And that was just sort of a moment for me where grieving and figuring out how to do that in a time where I'm supposed to be finishing school and getting ready to pack myself up and go to community college to play volleyball. It was just something that could help me stay focused, and something that could help me sort of heal. So that's why I started composing. And I didn't know much about music when I was a senior in high school, even though I was playing cello in the school orchestra. And so when I got to Wichita State University, where I did my undergraduate degree, I was just like, oh, well, being a film composer would be so cool. Um, and I was just writing stuff that I had no business writing. And my professor, Alex Sternfeld Dunn, he kind of just showed me how classical music worked and how classical music as a composer worked. And I just really fell in love with that. And I went to a smaller school, so I found a niche kind of in like chamber music and the intimacy of small ensembles. And that's what I like to compose for the most, I think, now is chamber music and solo instruments. So that's sort of like my story now. And I just genuinely enjoy writing for people that I know and love. I love getting to know new people, and I love getting to connect. I love to get to connect by way of music. I think it's a really interesting way to connect. If I can just say connect 10 more times. so so yeah, and I'm so happy that I finally got the kick and to write Jazzie a piece. So yeah.
Well, thanks for writing it, of course. I know this was like a big project to just kind of throw on you because most people don't know how to write for tuba, but y'all did great. Okay, so let's move on to Keeghan. Do you have anything to say beforehand, or you want to just?
Yeah, I mean, actually, no, we can just listen to it first.
Okay, so this is the demo recording that I used over the summer. It's on YouTube as well. I can post the link in the chat later, but I'm just going to play this. Okay,
Thank
so what inspired that? It's a great piece.
you. You know, I it, it was very much inspired, I guess, by the whole project concept that we were talking about. The fact that you, when you brought the idea of like revolution, I think was like one of the earliest ideas in like the group chat that we had, or it may have been the chat between you and me. But yeah, it was just a very I wanted to base it off of kind of a day in the life of a person of color going through like their normal day and stuff like that. The beginning, where it before it kicks into the whole drums and like bass and everything, it's kind of like a mother w- saying like everything's gonna be okay, like kind of just like it's labeled rhapsodic in the music. So it's kind of just like everything's gonna be okay and everything is gonna be fine. And then the first movement is called We Stand. So I wanted to also base it um, on the whole idea of community in the Black community and family of togetherness. So kind of like at the beginning, where like it's kind of the just the piano and the tuba, and then towards like the the ending of the intro, the rest of the band kind of joins in and is playing a lot of kind of ascending motifs and stuff like that. I wanted to convey that, and then the other two movements labeled downtown, and the last movement is called that's the third movement. The second movement is called street tough. So street tough and downtown also just parts of it tells a story throughout the three movements of kind of like a day in the life of POC, and that's what I was trying to kind of convey for so it can be relatable.
Okay, well that was interesting to know because I didn't ask you that before. So it's all very interesting. How did you get started in composing?
um, I got started, I think, making back in I think the year was 2010. It's been 10 years already. Um, I was transcribing dubstep music into GarageBand and making it into instrumental music that people could play um, of like popular dubstep songs, and then I that was kind of like my entry into composing was GarageBand. I would make a bunch of like pop songs and then post them while they were rising in the top 40, and then I'd post them on SoundCloud, and people just like enjoyed hearing instrumental versions of these new songs that were coming out. Um, except they were like MIDI sounds, but I mean like they were okay. Um, but yeah, and then I did marching band in high school, which was another huge step for me. Um, because before that, I was only just playing on piano and kind of just like I wasn't really taking music seriously until I got to my freshman year of high school and started doing marching band and was surrounded by like a bunch of other people who were just super interested in music, and it kind of inspired me to pursue it more and to pursue it into college. And now I really enjoy doing it, and it helps me meet amazing people like everyone here. So these are some of the best benefits of making that choice to continue composing, making beautiful music and meeting really cool people. So yeah, it's what keeps me going and what started me. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you for that response.
Thank you.
Um, so if you have any questions, please just drop them in the chat. I'm just going to ask some general questions for a little while until I run out of questions. So the first question, I guess, is how was writing for the tuba for the first, well, I think it was all of your first time writing a solo tuba piece, right? Yeah, okay. So how was that?
Can I take this one?
Hmm?
Okay, so it was super interesting knowing, because I mean like from a composer standpoint, you think like melody is like the main focus, and then like kind of like parts that play like bass notes are kind of like the accompanying part. So I mean, for me at least, it was definitely interesting flipping that and putting the bass voice that's so accustomed or kind of like so used to playing just accompanimental parts and having it play like the melody um, on over everything and kind of like making room for that to kind of make space for the main focus of the passage to be coming from the bottom instead of like the mid or high register kind of thing. So that was one fun thing for me, and that more composers should explore is flipping those kinds of contrasting concepts.
Um, for oh, did you want to go, Diana?
Yeah, but if you want to start first, that's fine.
No, go ahead. I saw you unmuted before me.
Okay. Yeah, so while I was working on this project, I was working on another project for tuba. So I had two tuba projects at the same time. But my background is as a string player. And I remember the first sort of like workshop meeting I had with Jazzie. And um, when I think about range for like a string instrument, it's just like it encompasses, the very bottom to the very top, and all of the ranges are good for certain things. But I don't have things like pedal as a part of my vocabulary. So it's just like navigating which registers of the tuba are going to be the best for melodic things or harmonic things. So yeah, but I had a lot of fun because I didn't realize how versatile the tuba was. And even listening to a couple of things, even the recommendations Jazzie made, is sort of like, okay, I'm not really sure until you actually start writing for it, and then you get to hear somebody play it for you. So it was very rewarding to be able to, hopefully, in Jazzie's eyes, successfully compose for an instrument that I am not familiar with all in terms of how to write for it idiomatically. So it was a challenge, but I definitely feel so much more confident and grateful for the opportunity to expand my repertoire, so to speak. So
Yeah, I was self-conscious the entire time because I was like, tuba, I don't know. So in addition to what she just said, I am also a cellist. So I come from just like writing for strings like 24/7. So I'm just like, okay, is this like the double bass or but yeah, the concept of pedal, I kind of had to like grasp a bit quicker in like my mind, or else I was going somewhere else, like relating it to strings again. So I kind of like knew that from previous experience writing for piano that like, okay, this is how the pedal works, but this is also how I can make melody like kind of shine on the bottom half, because that was like my favorite to do, is like have a melody in the left hand rather than the right, while having like some flourishy things on the right hand. So I was just like, okay, it's kind of like writing for piano, but you have actual separate instruments. So maybe let's maybe let's figure out what they can do together. So this first time being on tuba, it was definitely hard, and I was like self-conscious the entire time because I was like, what if Jazzie doesn't like it? What if she's like, oh, this is impossible, or like this is it was just a whole bunch going through my head during that time. But yeah, so the tuba is actually so interesting. As Diana said, I was just like, wow, this is like a good instrument. As she said, it's very versatile. It like can do so much more than what the orchestra's role for the tuba can do, so it's just like awesome to experience that and also try to create your own out of that, which got me excited when I could like figure out how to place it within my sound realm. But other than that, self-conscious is the bottom line. That's my pedal.
Okay, well, the tuba is the best instrument in the world, so I'm glad you all agree to an extent. Are you able to see the Q&A? Okay, so let's answer this question. Let me click this button. Okay. So Kaylee's asking, when you compose, do you usually find that most of the piece comes to you before you write it down, or do you usually start with one idea and go from there?
Okay, okay. So yeah, I have been actually experimenting with this myself the past couple months about setting parameters before a project or letting just kind of like and starting with an idea and then letting it go. And personally, I've had mixed experiences with it. Because for most of the time, my go-to is just to start with an idea and then have it continue and continue for as long as I can um, until I either need to move to another idea or I have enough material where I'm like, okay, this is where I finally want to go with this. But like this past since quarantine started, I've had three projects that I've had to set kind of more parameters at the beginning, and I found the results to be completely different in kind of my brain to think about composing in a completely different way than just setting my ideas free. Um, so I think there's mixed results. There's definitely different processes for either way, but personally, different processes and different results for either way. But personally, I find it more fun and I feel more satisfied letting my brain just kind of go and letting it run free.
um, I'll go next. So typically, before a piece, I find a comfortable spot, like a place where I'm familiar, and just like pace around there, especially once I do get an idea or just like a main type of theme thing. Um, and just like Keeghan, I just like let it go, let it run wild and free, rent free in my head for as long as it can go. Um, but for this one, I definitely wanted to make sure I crafted a sustainable melody that would still be like memorable instead of just like my usual, I'll go and like pop off with all these ideas and whatnot, because I felt like that wouldn't have been conducive to the project per se, or at least in my head for what I would want it to do, like with applying the Afrobeat factor into the piece that I wrote. So typically, I do just like let it go free, and then I just like keep expanding. I usually hear the whole piece in my head, but then like only the memorable parts stick out. So that's what I know, the material that I need to use, and the rest I have to like, once I start writing it, it's up to me to try to get from that one point to the next point in a manner that is pleasing to me. So it takes a lot of writing and rewriting and whatnot. Trying not to skip loose ends when trying to get from this point to this point, because those are the only parts I can remember. So after I let it go free, the parts that stick, then we build a bridge.
I think I sort of resonate with both Keegan and Malachi. It's like every composition is different, so the process is different every time. I know specifically the very, very beginning of this work for Jazzie was like constantly running through my head every time I was thinking about writing for the tuba. And I was like, Okay, I need to write this down for sure and think about ways to expand it. But first, before I do that, I think about in general how long the piece needs to be. And then I think about, I had this gesture and then I was like, okay, kind of what tempo is this? And then sort of like how many bars do I need to fill in order to fulfill the time requirement? Um, and it's not restricting because it's just like I have nowhere but forward to go. So, and then the second thing I was thinking about was how to, aside from the tuba, how to also give the other instruments um, a sort of like feature, I guess, because it is so intimate. And Jazzie cannot play the whole time, so she does need a break. So thinking about how to work that in instrument fatigue, as well as giving the drum set and the saxophone their own time to shine, and how to work that in there cohesively. So those are the couple of things that I was thinking about. It's just like how to flesh out this one idea, and then um, how to make sure each instrument has their feature, and then also not overplaying all the instrumentalists, since it is a very small group. So
Oh, can I say one more thing about this idea? Awesome. So I find myself also a lot of times thinking about the concept of the best fit line, throwing going back to like fifth grade math, but like it was like the line where like it best fit along all like the x's on the graph, where like it would be the closest to everything. So I think about that concept and analogy a lot when I'm writing. Um, because when I do write and just let myself write and write, it's very much at the end that I find myself thinking about what is the best, and it's very much with the title. The title is always what gets me, and I think of the title as the best fit line about how what is like the one thing that's going to tie all of this material together. And I think through that also um, looking back on like what you've written or like what you've created, you can find like a totally different story. Because like I don't know, I personally like if I'm writing something and I'm really enjoying it, I listen to it, I play it back to myself a lot, just to get like um, the full image and idea in my head. So I guess I really think about that best fit line to tie everything together, um, to go with the process and everything at the end.
Okay, so switching gears, I just thought of a really good question. I think it's a good question. I'm wondering, because this summer was really pivotal in Black identity in America, and I'm wondering how that affected you guys as Black composers. Did it change the way you looked at what you're doing, or any sort of inspiration from it, or how did that impact you?
um, yeah, that's a really excellent question, and I'm happy that you asked it. I'm not sure about Keeghan or Malachi, but after sort of the first sort of wave of protest after George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor, to name the first few names that were really pivotal this summer, I got a lot of activity. Um, People wanting to boost more composers of color, more Black composers. I got a few emails. I think a few weeks after that, I had been getting like commissions and people being like, oh my gosh, like, can I have this piece or this piece? And one of the commissions specifically was this other tuber project. And it was like, it was a piece for, victims of police violence and police brutality. And it's really difficult um, to grapple with the emotions of wanting to speak out, as well as grapple with the emotions of grieving at the same time. Um, so that's just sort of like this. That was the one that stood out to me the most. It's just like, I really have something important to say and I have an opportunity to say it. And then it's just like, do I have the strength to say this? Do I have the willpower to be able to do this? And it's very challenging to have to deal with all the social aspects that come along with being a composer, especially now. People wanting to highlight composers of color more, and being like, am I worthy of all of this? You know, and people would tell me yes. And I mean, imposter syndrome was a thing before all this happened, but especially now, it's just like, man, am I worthy of the art that people are asking from me? So that's a question I had to really ask myself over the summer, after, in the aftermath of um, fatal shootings, whatever you want to call them, and police violence and police brutality. It's just like wow. And figuring out where you fit into the grand scheme of not only where you fit into classical music community, where you fit into the Black community, where you fit into your friend group, and how that all really starts to pile on and affect you. But I think I can say with confidence that it's just like, yes, I am worthy. Our voices do need to be heard. And this project is so wonderful for that. I mean, just having Black people come together and do something. Um, and it's just like one of my goals is just like to be the face who I needed when I was younger. So it's just like when I was younger, you know, would I have seen a classical music album that was just Black people, whether it's for strings, for whatever sort of instrumentation? It's just like, so being at the forefront of that is also really, really special. So
I completely agree. For the longest time, like ever since, honestly, ever since February, I've just been like going on and off of a depression because of everything that was going on. Because Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery happened later, way before the protests like truly got started with George Floyd. So I was just like getting depressed on and off with like the news and like the case verdicts and whatnot. And then it was just really tough because during that time I had also been getting a couple of commissions to like be, I guess, the voice of like POC composers. And I'm like, I mean, thank you. I'm I'm grateful for this. Still not in the right headspace, but I'm gonna do it, you know, because I know that it is important for our future and future generations in order to see that we're like coming at all fronts, even not just from like the protest legal side, but also through the arts and whatnot. Because I feel that it's important for them to see that we can do a lot more than what is just put on the screen of our TVs, especially within the Eurocentric US, you know, like everything is very much Eurocentric in this country. So like it's tough for us in that aspect where we need to go ahead and find ourselves, but also like try to take back the hurt that we've been receiving. So I feel like during this time I've been going on and off trying to like figure out, just like Daijana said, I'm just like grappling with imposter syndrome and also like a confidence issue. But during that time, I realized I did want to say something, and I've been working on my own set of little projects during that time as well that hopefully will come out soon. We'll see. That also helps speak towards the injustices that Black people face, not just the ones that were on our TV screen, because the media, and I hate referring to it, it's just like the media does highlight only the things that people want to see and not everything that they should be seeing. So that's why I was also in the middle of just like getting depressed, going through the motions and becoming very, very just like conditioned to seeing these things without reacting and just like feeling more in a slump than I was. So yeah, definitely during this time managing my art and maintaining my confidence in my art was a huge factor. But also like seeing more Black people rise up out of this in the art, not just like music, but also in like actual visual art and actual poetry and whatnot. That is very fulfilling to see. And I recently came from a Black Creators Forum, and that was for film. So it's just wonderful to like go from that to this, because we're saying the same things and we're all in agreement on what is going on, and how we need to represent ourselves and also be represented for everyone to see. So yeah, that has affected my art, but I feel more confident in myself now than I did in the beginning half of this year.
And yeah, I agree with everything that Daijana and Malachi have said. I think as creators and artists, there during times like these, we just have like a feeling of like I need to say something, and the way that we know how to say that is through our art form. And there's kind of just like that kind of feeling in the back of our heads. Um, that we just need to use our voice to speak up. Um, through the at the beginning of like all the protests and stuff, it was just so much every day, and I just remember I felt so depressed and everything, and I couldn't figure out. I was debating on whether I needed to be strong to help my. I needed to fight for myself or fight for myself in kind of making myself better, but and then also there was the feeling of I need to um, fight oppression every day and kind of continue that fight. Um, and I think that we definitely went through a rough summer and past couple months in that regard, but I feel like the amount of bringing everyone together kind of in the face of adversity and challenge throughout the summer was something really good to witness as a person of color, and as a younger kind of person in our generation, in our country, kind of looking forward. It was nice to see that, but I mean, like, there's still a far way to go. Um, but I definitely s- felt it was nice to see that while I was working kind of on myself to make sure that I was in the right headspace to be able to continue the fight, there were other people stepping in and kind of stepping up to the plate in that regard. I also, in regards to like business and everything, it was interesting because during a lot of like the protests and stuff, I'm in like a lot of percussion, like large world percussion groups or Facebook groups, not percussion, Facebook groups. So I'm in contact with a lot of different people around the world and a lot of different musicians, and there were some kind of bigger name percussionists and administrators and stuff who started a Black composers percussion spreadsheet, and what I thought that that was like a great idea, and I was like sharing it and everything. Um, just because there were a lot of people that were kind of looking for pieces by Black composers but didn't know where to look. Um, and then I was like sharing it and everything, and then like one day, um, I get a Venmo transfer saying that someone found or sending me money for one of my pieces and saying that they found me. I was actually put on the spreadsheet for the Black composers and everything, and they found my work through that, and I was in the catalog and everything. So that was a good positive thing that came out of it. Um, but again, it's very much during in times like this rallying together and figuring out how to use your voice in in the space that you can. So, yeah.
Thank you for your thoughtful responses on that. I know it's a very intimate question because I struggled with this a lot this summer, um, in different ways. A lot of it was just I didn't know what to say, and then I didn't want to say anything. I wanted to avoid everything that was happening, and then some people were upset with me for that, and then other people were upset, like I don't know, they were just upset. So it was stressful for me as well to go through that while doing this project. But it reminded me of the importance of what we're doing, I guess. So we have about 10 minutes left. If there are any questions, please just still drop them in the chat. But as I don't see any, I'm going to end with this question. What advice would you give to a young student of color who's trying to look into making it in music?
Make a lot of white friends. Just kidding. Make a lot of rich white friends. um,
Um, um,
no, I definitely stand up for your craft. Stand up for your heritage. Because a lot of people, like, there's so many musicians in the world that if you don't bring what's specific to you to the table, it just won't seem as authentic. So I mean, definitely bring like your past and what's personal to you because everybody's different. And especially people of color, we have a very rich musical tradition. So there are a lot of like aspects of that can be incorporated, and I guess just being true to yourself.
Oh, I feel like I have so many things that I want to say. Um, but the one thing I will say is never stop being curious. Um, my boyfriend, he plays guitar and he learned how to play guitar by watching YouTube videos. And I feel like that's not a resource that we tap into enough. There are plenty of people giving tutorials about basics of instruments, music theory, how to work specific music notation softwares. So if there's a question that you have and there's no one around to answer that for you, there's someone on the internet who has answered that, and you just need to look for it. There are so many great resources. There are people who are playing in different styles of classical music. There are people who, I don't know, only do like jazz, or they only do like fusion, or they only do something. And I think if you find that and you tap into that, it's just going to be so beneficial for you. Like going into college, I didn't know how to play my instrument, but it wasn't something I was like thinking about. But it's just like, oh yeah, if I had thought about that, there are 20 people on YouTube right now who give basic cello lessons, how to read in this clef, how to do this, how to do that. So just be able to tap into your resources. And if you have a question, ask it. And if nobody can answer it, go find that answer for yourself.
Yeah, I would definitely say YouTube pages and Facebook groups. I highly suggest Facebook groups because there's just like so many people out there that are also looking. I mean, like there are like teachers, people old and stuff like that are like teachers and stuff. They just are scrolling through Facebook and they're like, oh, there's like some kid who has a question about what's this fingering, and it's so easy to just have simple questions answered by people who are knowledgeable and people who actually like really care. Um, so yeah, joining it as many Facebook groups and just like YouTubing whatever you're interested in, I think are very sure and smart ways to go about pursuing anything in that regard and just like making connections and friends and stuff.
definitely agreed. And when you do come into these problems that both of them just previously mentioned, just like be sure you still find the motivation to keep going. don't let that be a roadblock for you, because like I know as a teacher currently, a lot of my kids, once they see something that is too hard for them, they like to shut down and just say, "Oh, well, I don't know this. I don't accept. I don't knows for answers." I tell them, "This is what we did, and this is how we do it. So let's try to apply this, and I'll help you walk through it." You know, oh, that rhymed. Oh, okay. Look at me. Well, but other than that, just don't let that roadblock. It's just a fence for you to climb over. You know, you'll be able to get through the answer if you use these resources that these two just mentioned. Just be sure you don't let that problem that you come across stop you from going to find the answer. So definitely that.
And my bit of advice actually branches off of that. So great lead in. Just don't be afraid of failure. You're going to fail. And you know, that's a part of life. It's going to give you a callus and you're going to get back up and you're going to continue. And I don't think anybody should be afraid of following their dream and what they want to do, because anything's possible, especially in the age of the internet. So thank you everyone for coming out tonight and listening to us talk. So I'm just going to close this Q&A. If anyone has any questions about the Kickstarter project, please don't hesitate to message me or email me. I'm around my computer a lot. Okay, but take
Hi
care.
everyone, thanks for coming.
Bye. Thank you.